Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the second half of Star Rail's 3.0 banners. And as we all know, this has 4 characters, so pray for your wallets. But we're going to be looking at the new character, Aglaea, as well as reruns for Boothill, Robin, and Silverwolf. So let's go through both of these banners and see whether or not these characters are worth it or not for your account. And if you do enjoy the video, go ahead and please hit that like and subscribe button, and maybe check out the rest of our channel for other content you might find interesting. We do also have a Discord, so check the link in the description for that. But anyways, let's get on to the video.
So the first character we're going to be looking at, like Rick was talking about, she has multiple different ways that people have been trying to say her name, Aglaea, Aglaea, whatever it is, but her name in game, at least from when I was doing the story, is pronounced as Aglaea. So if you actually care about that type of thing, there you go. I'm sure we'll have somebody raging in the comments about how it's properly said. But anyways, looking at the actual kind of her actual kit, in a very basic sense, using your skill will summon a garment maker that will be by her side. And basically at that point in time, it'll have 50% of her max HP. Also, that's kind of, once again, the major idea of using her skill. The whole point of using the skill, though, is to have that on your side, but also that allows for a lot more damage so that her and her summon can do a lot of damage out on the field. So there's a lot of like other ways to then actually get your Memo Sprite, in this instance, in summon to actually do a lot more damage. That's at least how she's specifically focused. Her ultimate also will summon the Memo Sprite Garment Maker. If it's already on the field, it'll restore its max HP, or its HP to max, so that's nice. And then Aglaea enters the Supreme Stance state and immediately takes action. When she does so, she gains a speed boost from the stacks that you get, so increasing your speed based on the stacks that your Garment Maker gets. Also, the more speed you have, the more damage that you will do, so she's kind of a little bit more speed tuned and speed focused. That also allows her to go a lot more consistently because she's going to need to. So a lot of good, interesting things to see from the new character, at least, specifically in these Amphorius characters. That livestream was insane. You know what else is insane? These banners. Does Hoyo think that I'm made out of primos or something? And to top it all off, they're running all these cool characters in the future. Another day, another swipe of my credit card to the Gacha Gods to top up my account. But I can be thankful at least that the sponsor of this video, Loot Bar, has got my back. With Loot Bar, you can top up your account at a discounted rate compared to the game store. You have time for other gacha games or other games in general, Loot Bar can also help you there as well. There are a few reasons to use Loot Bar. The first being that you only need your UID and server, which keeps your account completely safe. No passwords or emails are needed at all. Another reason is that they offer 24/7 live chat support. The third reason is that you can see all 5,000 plus reviews that people have left. And if that's still not enough for you to use Loot Bar, the last reason I have is that if you're guaranteed to get your currency within 30 minutes of completing the purchase. Other creators have also used Loot Bar to top up their accounts, so if you're looking for any more credibility, there you go. Check out the link in the description or pinned comment and make the right choice choosing Loot Bar, diving headfirst into the game like Skirk yeeting child to his doom. Now, back to the content.
Now quickly taking a look at Boothill, he is a break-oriented DPS following the path of the hunt, and he is a physical DPS at that. So if you have thought about going after a break team, he is definitely one of the candidates for a break DPS. Basically, the rundown of what he does is you're going to use your skill to basically go into this state where he goes into a standoff with an enemy. He kind of locks onto this enemy, and his basic attack then gets enhanced after using the skill. So let's say you get back to Boothill's turn. After using that skill to go in that standoff state, you can only use your basic attack at this point. It does become enhanced, so it is going to deal more damage. But after the target is defeated or just become weakness broken, Boothill is going to gain 1 stack of Pocket Trick Shot, and then the standoff state will be dispelled. What is Pocket Trick Shot? Each stack of Pocket Trick Shot is going to increase the enhanced basic attack toughness reduction by 50%, which can stack up to 3 times. And you can actually see this Pocket Trick Shot counter right next to your little character icon. If the target is weakness broken while the enhanced basic attack is being used, based on the number of Pocket Trick Shot stacks that Boothill does have, you're going to deal increased break damage to the target equal to either 70% with 1 stack, 120% with 2 stacks, or 170% with 3 stacks of Boothill's physical break damage. The max toughness taken into account for this damage cannot exceed 16 times the base toughness reduction of the basic attack. Boothill's ultimate is going to apply physical weakness to a single target enemy that does last for 2 turns, and this is obviously really good because as a break DPS, the whole point of a break DPS is to make sure you're breaking the weaknesses on the characters you're attacking so they can actually deal some damage, because a lot of their damage is break damage. So this is very good. Also, After applying that physical weakness, you're going to deal physical damage equal to 400% of Boothill's attack to the target, and also delay their action by 40%. This is assuming you have this trace leveled up to level 10.
Looking beyond Aglaea and Boothill, looking beyond them, we're going to be talking now about Robin, who is the next character, a very, very solid support that a lot of people have been talking about, obviously in the past, and she's just a strong character for the past characters as well as possibly future characters. People have even been talking about Aglaea or Aglaea being actually put with Robin as well. Now, she is a physical harmony unit, and the major way of really using her is using her skill and her ultimate. Her skill is going to be increasing the damage by all allies for 3 turns. Also, when you use her ultimate, she's going to enter a specific state and she'll start singing, which I'm pretty sure everybody has heard at this point in time. At that point in time, once you're in that state, you'll increase all allies' attack by a certain amount based on Robin's attack. And then after any of the targets that, while she's in that state, after any targets that start attacking enemies, she's going to do an additional damage hit with her own personal physical damage based on what she actually has. So it's kind of nice. Also, she can't be crowd controlled, or because you can't really knock her out of that. So that's really, really nice to make sure that you always have that buff going on. Also, she has a talent that increases allies' crit damage and gives back some energy. She is a little energy hungry, so that is also something to keep in mind as you are kind of running with her as a specific character.
And then lastly, looking at Silverwolf. Silverwolf is a quantum nihility unit. She did come out very early on in the game, and so there has been a lot of talk that she has been power crept, and I think most of that is true. But if Silverwolf still is a character that you want to go after because you like her, she still has placements, obviously, to be used and is a good debuffer. Quickly going over her kit, her basic attack's pretty basic, just does a little bit of quantum damage, but her skill says that there's an 85% base chance to add 1 weakness of an on-field character's type to the target enemy that she's targeting. This also does reduce the enemy's damage resistance to that weakness type by 20% for 2 turns. And if the enemy already has that type weakness, the effective damage resistance reduction to that weakness type will not be triggered. Each enemy can only have 1 weakness implanted by Silverwolf, and when Silverwolf does implant another weakness to the target, only the most recent implanted weakness will be kept. In addition to all of this, there is a 100% base chance to further reduce the all-type resistance of the enemy by 10% for 2 turns. And then finally, you're going to deal quantum damage equal to 196% of Silverwolf's attack to this enemy that you've applied this new weakness to. With her ultimate, there's a 100% base chance to decrease the target enemy's defense by 45% for 3 turns. At the same time, you're going to deal quantum damage equal to 380% of Silverwolf's attack to the target enemy. So overall, you can just see that she decreases defense, she does decrease all type resistance, as well as a specific type weakness that she does implant on the enemy, and that's basically how she works. So obviously she has things she's still good for, so just keep that in mind.
What's also really nice is that talent, she can either further reduce attack for enemies, further reduce the defense that she does on enemies, and even reduce their speed. And there's like a kind of a toss-up chance for that happening as well every time that she attacks. So really, really good at being a debuffer specifically for a lot of teams. Looking beyond the characters, now let's actually go a little bit further and get into our question section. First question we always look at is, do you actually need either character on your account or any of the characters, considering there's 4 of them, not just 2, like we've seen in the past? Really looking at how valuable each character is. Looking at Aglaea, really taking a look at her, she's the first Remembrance actual character that we have. Now, I know that there are other characters that technically could use maybe some of the, Divergent Universe buffs or whatever, the Simulated Universe, whatever that may be. But now, especially with the changes that are happening already actually with the Divergent and Simulated Universe, it's becoming its own path and becoming a little bit like different. Things are changing a lot more. Certain paths are kind of getting put together. And because of that, we're starting to see that Remembrance is following the idea a little bit more, especially if you've been following in the story, that it's a little bit more on the idea of like summons and a lot of extra just straight damage. So really looking at this type of a character, she's mainly going to be your DPS. Now, she is a lightning DPS, and honestly, from what I've personally seen, she looks like an extremely good character at that. Now, she's not going to bust the game at any single moment, but honestly, with all the changes that we've gotten to a lot of like the ideas with summons and whatnot, characters like Sunday, so if you got Sunday and you're looking for a really, really solid DPS to pair with him, and maybe you had one in the past like Jing Yuan, because Jing Yuan got a nice buff because of Sunday. At this point in time, I think Aglaea or Aglaea is actually going to be a pretty solid buff to you for your account. Now, at the same time, if you already have a solid lightning, DPS, you probably don't need to pull Aglaea, and especially since she's, this is her first run, she'll probably come on a rerun pretty soon. I am very excited. I'm going to be going after her. I really do love the idea of like having a summon, and I don't have a character like that yet, so I'm going to be picking her up. I'm extremely excited to see what that can kind of bring to my account, and I definitely think that for a lot of people, this is going to be a pretty nice pickup for them as well. So I think the value is pretty high. Going to the next character, which is Boothill. Boothill always has really solid, he's just a really solid character. He is Hunt, so he's extremely focused, like Riff was talking about, on one single target, and that's the idea with Hunt. But he is a weakness break character, so you're going to need possibly the idea of getting a character like Ruan Mei. Look at other characters, Gallagher can work. Obviously, it gets better when you have a character like Lingsha, and even using the Harmony Trailblazer is pretty good. Also, if you grabbed Fugue recently, definitely a character like Boothill is high on the market. That's kind of the idea with him. Honestly, with break teams, you're mainly looking for Ruan Mei as the perfect support. So make sure that you get Boothill, and make sure that you either have Ruan Mei or make sure you have plans to try to get her to make the team just work better. I know people have used break teams without Ruan Mei. It usually just does even better with her. Looking outside of Boothill though, although he's an extremely solid character to get, another physical character that probably has even more pull like value than him is going to be Robin. Robin is just probably one of the most overall like used characters probably in the game, just because of how universal her buffs are. Very much like to character in Genshin, which is Farina. So with her attack buff, her crit damage buff, everything that she really can do, as well as the extra damage that she herself can output, she's an extremely good character. Once again, the quote-unquote issue that you can run into with her is, like I talked about earlier, is her energy regeneration rate. So her light cone kind of fixes that, but we'll talk about that when we talk about light cones later. Silverwolf, yes, is an old character. Honestly, I think with break teams, with a lot of characters being able to implant weaknesses, I think Silverwolf has just kind of fallen off a little bit more. She is a fun Nihility unit and can be good. She was even on like one of the better teams, which was with Acheron when she came out in Penacony. So she kind of got a little bit of a resurgent, getting an extra Nihility in there, another character. But honestly, DOT teams aren't really looking for her as a Nihility unit. Acheron really just likes other characters at this point over her. She's just lost a lot of value at the end of the day. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's useless. So if you pull her because you really like Silverwolf, there's definitely a lot of places to use her, especially in mono quantum teams, or even probably more specifically, like if you're trying to make sure that you're trying to weakness break or just get a lot of damage off. Once again, she's an amazing debuffer with all the defense shred that she can get and some resistances that she can decrease as well. So there's a lot of great usability there. It's just, she's just kind of been quote unquote power crept over time.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The thing for me is like, only do it if you really want it, because a character like Pela does exist, and a lot of us know that Pela is like only 5% weaker in terms of her defense shred, which is just absolutely crazy because she's a 4-star and most likely everyone just has that. So Silverwolf is only like very minimal upgrade to replacing Pela. Like, let's say you still use your Pela for a lot of your Acheron teams. A lot of people still use Pela because Pela's just, like I said, broken. Silverwolf is a slight upgrade to that, but it's not that much. So just something to keep in mind, that Silverwolf, yes, has, lost a lot of value, but that doesn't mean she's not usable. Can she still be used in a team that can clear the content? I think so, yeah. But anyways, looking at our next question, we ask, what kinds of teams are you trying to build? And this is that question that kind of always tends to mesh with that first question, because they just, they kind of go hand in hand, but it's still kind of like looking at a different aspect. And with Aglaea, we know she's part of this new meta with Amphorius. We see a lot of this new mechanic with memo sprites. We see with Sunday increasing, summon damage that helped out Jing Yuan as well. But these memo sprites are summons, and a lot of these new characters are going to be having these memo sprite just mechanics, right? And so obviously being in a new meta, Aglaea is probably going to be one of the better options nowadays. Now, there are other characters that still have yet to be released. We have My Day, among many others, Castris, Tribi, etc. There's a lot. If you have been looking to build a new team or just been kind of waiting for Amphorius, Aglaea definitely is one of those characters that you could have been waiting for, because with the new meta, that means there's going to be new content as well that kind of works with those new mechanics. We're probably going to see new endgame pretty soon that has to do with specifically buffing characters with memo sprites. We already do see that in new relic sets. So Aglaea is going to be a pretty good character, a powerful one at that. If you pulled Sunday, she becomes a little bit more valuable already, especially if you don't have Jing Yuan and you kind of pulled Sunday for Aglaea. That makes the most sense. She's going to be very good, I feel. And I know, Vixen, like you said earlier in the video, you're going for her. And so I think she's going to be really good. The only reason I wouldn't pull her is if you are planning to pull a future Amphorius character, maybe like My Day, or just one of these other ones instead. Because I think maybe going for at least one of them is going to be good for your account, because with this new meta in general, it might be somewhat smart to have one of these memo sprite characters, because I really feel that endgame content and just other content, maybe even new content, is going to have to do with that specifically, maybe buff that specifically.
Oh, for sure.
And we know that with Starrel, you don't have to, but you almost, right? It's just, the game is very difficult when you don't follow the meta. It's not as forgiving as something like Genshin. And so I know this is kind of going on a tangent, but I'm saying all this to say, basically, I think Aglaea is going to be a good character because of this new mechanic. That's what's going to make her powerful. Now, with these other characters, Boothill, if you're going for a break team, Boothill is one of the candidates for break DPS. It's pretty simple and dumbed down, because if this is based on what teams you're going after, if you already have Ron Mei, then great, you're set up. If you don't have Ron Mei, I don't know. I would only say go for Boothill if you know for sure you're planning to pull Ron Mei on one of her reruns, and she is getting due for one, so she should be around the corner. So I would just say that. Please pull Ron Mei if you're going for a break team. She's kind of necessary. At the same time, if you already have Rappa or Firefly, then your value for pulling Boothill does lower a little bit, but not completely, just because he's hunt focused, whereas Firefly and Rappa are a little bit more AoE focused, especially Rappa. So you kind of have to decide, well, I have a break team with Rappa right now, and so I'm having an easy time. It's a breeze with Pure Fiction, but I still am struggling in Apocalyptic Shadow because I just don't have a good single target damage dealer. In that case of your account, Boothill's not a terrible pull because you already have Ron Mei, let's say for your Rappa, right, or something like that. You already have the team set up, and you can easily, like, okay, Boothill, I can pull that, and I don't have to, like, pull something down the line like Ron Mei, because I already have her. And maybe you just like Boothill. So that's a good pull in that scenario. It's just kind of weighing all of that stuff. Do I need the character versus do I want the character? It can be a mixture of both. Point being said, with Boothill, break team. Don't have break team, don't pull Boothill. Robin, you just can't go wrong with Robin. Any team you go after, Robin's going to be a help. I think at that point, whatever specific team you're doing, is just to kind of do the research and know, okay, what is the actual best in slot Harmony or Nihility? Just what is the best in slot supports for this team I'm trying to build? If you already have them, great. If you don't really care, Robin's just a generalist. Like, she's just good for so many different things. And then with Silverwolf, obviously, go for Silverwolf if you want her. I just don't know if I can recommend actually going for her, because almost anyone is an upgrade, and she, if anything, is just a side grade to even, like we stated earlier, some 4-star characters like Pela. If you already have Pela, it's almost not worth throwing all the Stellar Jade for Silverwolf. Just continue to use Pela for your Akron.
Now that we've talked about the characters, let's go ahead and look at the actual light cones. Looking at Aglaea's light cone first and foremost at S1, like normal, it increases the wearer's base speed by 12, so any speed buffs on top of that with percentages will come on after this. After the wearer and wearer's memo sprite attacks, the wearer gains 1 stack of Brocade. Each stack of Brocade increases the wearer's and their memo sprite's crit damage by 9%, stacking up 6 times to 54% crit damage. And when reaching maximum stacks, each Brocade stack additionally increases basic attack damage by 9%. Now this makes sense considering a lot of what you're doing is using your skill or whatever to get your summon out, and then doing some sort of attack and even joint attack with your memo sprite for basic attack damage. So that's kind of the idea there. Even getting a lot of crit stacks in there. Once again, the speed is also helping her personal damage. So it's also helping the memo sprite get more damage. There's just a lot to do with this light cone. I think a very solid light cone. The more and more that we get light cones, obviously they have to get a little bit more specific. And with Starrel, they've always kind of been specific to the character, making it very difficult to be kind of put with other characters. But looking at the next light cone, we state it is sailing towards a second life, which is Boothill's light cone. It states in S1, it increases the wearer's break effect by 60%, so very solid for him, like Riff was talking about. Good for break teams. The break damage dealt by the wearer ignores 20% of the target's defense when the wearer's break effect is in battle is at greater than 150%, or obviously more. It increases their speed by 12%. So you're seeing a lot of extra break here, a lot of extra damage. Getting over to a certain amount of break is even better, increasing your speed, allowing him to go more often. Very solid light cone. I'm sure that this could try to be used on someone else. Rift, where do you think that this could really even be thrown, though, otherwise? Because we've only really have 3 break DPSs, and they're all on 3 different paths. So, I don't know. To me, this feels like one that kind of gets thrown to the wayside, whereas hopefully in the future, maybe Aglaea could maybe be used on another Remembrance character, but this one just feels rough.
Yeah, I would agree. When you look at the Hunt roster, Boothill's the only one that actually cares about break effect. I mean, you can try to do like a meme break effect build, and I'm sure it's not terrible. Like, I know people actually do a March 7th break effect build, or just a break build. She could probably get away with using this, because that obviously is going to help raise her break effect. So that's something, an option, but obviously I'm not going to tell someone to pull this light cone and build their March 7th that way, and like go after this, because there's just other options, and that's just where it comes down to. I'm not going to actually recommend that. But so yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and then kind of outside of those first 2 light cones, we look at Robin's light cone, which states in the S1, every time an ally attacks, the wearer gains 1 stack of Cantillation. Each stack of Cantillation increases the wearer's energy regeneration rate by 3%, stacking up 5 times to 15%, and when the wearer uses their ultimate, removes the Cantillation and gains Cadenza. Cadenza increases the wearer's attack by 48%, which is more damage for her, and increases all allies' attack, also by the way increases the buff to the attack that she gives, and increases all allies' damage dealt by 24%. So a very, very nice buff all around. Once again, fixing a little bit more of her problem by having her energy problems that she might have, maybe happens a little bit quicker for her, specifically as a character. Looking beyond to the last light cone, we look at the last character, which is Silverwolf, and hers at S1 states that it increases the wearer's effect hit rate by 24%. The more effect hit rate you have, a lot of those debuffs are going to have a higher chance of actually proccing. Remember that bosses have about a 40% normally effect resistance, and so you need a base 100% chance on top of another 40% to get past the 40% effect resistance. So you need 100, technically you need some extra effect hit rate, so about 40% effect hit rate to get past the effect resistance on bosses. When the wearer deals damage to an enemy that currently has 3 or more debuffs, so more Nihility units the better, it increases the crit rate by 12%. After the wearer uses their basic attack, skill, or ultimate, there is a 100% base chance to implant Ether Code on a random enemy target that does not yet have it applied to them. Targets with Ether Code receive 12% increased damage for 1 turn. Once again, more buffs, more debuffs, kind of that whole idea by helping her other characters do more damage. These light cones, I think, once again, are kind of more specific. Obviously, Star Rail's always like that. You kind of have to get the light cone specifically for the character. We'll see with time what other Remembrance characters are looking like to see if Aglaea's can even be used on other characters. Obviously, hers, my normal thing is if you're looking at any light cones, DPSs come first, get them and their light cones together. The other characters can tend to usually use some 4 stars pretty well, whereas the 5-star light cones for DPSs are very specific and help a little bit more than the basic 4-star versions that they normally have. So I think Aglaea's is pretty good. If you have Boothill, Boothill really likes his. Robin, she's probably one of the few actual light cones for Harmony units I would say you kind of almost have to get to an extent. Not that she doesn't work without it, it just makes life 10 times easier, and your Robin's going to be a lot more useful for you. And then, honestly, because I wouldn't even say to pull Silverwolf, I think it's even less of a worth to pull her specific light cone. I'm sure there's definitely plenty of other light cones that she could use in place, and at that point, just throw Pela in there if that really means anything as well. Well, we hope that this video could help you decide on which characters you guys want, and we kind of talked a little bit about our own personal thoughts about each character. Hopefully, we'll get to see more and more of them as they go on, and honestly, these 4 banners are happening pretty consistently, so if that does happen, although it is a lot, and a lot of people might be sad that they're missing reruns, keep in mind that if they keep doing this, these characters are going to keep rerunning faster and faster, and instead of having to wait for like a year for them to rerun, it's only going to be a couple of months, which allows them, allows your saving time to not be as long. But if you guys did like the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Check out our Discord as well. Thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.